The moon isn't what we think it is. These are lunar anomalies that cannot be ignored. We've found towers, we've found pyramids, we've found structures, we've found staircases, and also this image coming up is the recent image found by the Chinese Space Agency and the towers that they found on the moon. Now, each night the moon makes this majestic appearance. Without this luminous sphere, our planet would be a very different place. It's responsible for the ocean's tides, the seasons, temperatures on our planet, and Earth's very rotation. Both humans and animals are affected by the moon's presence. Scientists have theories about the planetary object's origins, but all remain mere speculation. Some researchers disagree with current hypothesis and have proposed an intriguing conclusion. They believe the moon is an artificial satellite intentionally placed into orbit by advanced extraterrestrials. Quote, the moon is bigger than it should be, apparently older than it should be, and much lighter in mass than it should be. It occupies an unlikely orbit and is so extraordinary that all existing explanations for its presence are fraught with difficulties, and none of them could be considered remotely watertight, end quote. This is what Alan Butler says in his book, Who Built the Moon? Lunar lore and throughout history, while the notion that the moon is a synthetic celestial body may seem unimaginable to us, it's been discussed for thousands of years. Our ancient ancestors, for example, the ancient Greeks, who had no contact with one another, all shared nearly identical stories about the time before the Earth had a moon. Greek philosopher Aristotle and Plutarch, both Greek philosophers, referenced an age in which the astronomical orb, our natural satellite, did not exist. In Africa, Zulu legend chronicles how the planetoid, our moon, was similar to an egg with its yolk removed. How would they know? Certain Native American tribes believed their evening spotlight was brought here by advanced alien beings. Indigenous Colombians recounted a pre-lunar civilization in their writings, just like the ancient Greeks did. These diverse groups all describe a terrible cataclysm upon the moon's arrival. Widespread fatalities reduced the population to a single race. Modern science has ascertained that humans share one common ancestor, mitochondrial Eve. Might it be plausible ancient fables may be in fact be knowledgeable of events long before forgotten? The moon rang like a bell and strange sounds emitted. Prior to mankind's historic cosmic adventures, Apollo 10 traveled to the dark side of the moon. During radio transcripts, the astronauts recount hearing eerie outer space music. Bizarre electromagnetic tones similar to the frequencies recorded inside Saturn's rings were clearly audible, and we can hear that. Those are the eerie sounds of Saturn. Now, a dreadful otherworldly orchestra encompassed the ears of every voyager. NASA representative quickly dismissed the acoustic oddity and blamed radio waves interfering with the moon's magnetic field. However, their argument is not applicable since the moon does not possess a magnetic field. Now, Apollo 12 infamously landed on the moon November of 1969. Its intense force produced an artificial earthquake on the moon. Seismic devices registered the impact covered a 40-mile range, and astonishingly, the object rang like a bell. The moon rang like a bell for over 35 minutes. How would the moon ring like a bell for 35 minutes if it was solid? So a lot of people believe that it rang like a bell because it was a metallic sphere that was empty inside. Aerospace officials were greatly intrigued by this phenomenon. On the following mission, executive personnel decided to send a heavier rocket and document the results. So Apollo 13 was deployed, and its module struck with the equivalent of 11 tons of TNT, and for 3 hours the moon reverberated with sounds similar to a massive gong. Such acoustics would be physically impossible for a solid mass to produce. So Apollo 12 made it ring for 35 minutes, and Apollo 13 made it ring for 3 hours. Anomalous crater depths and an unnatural metallurgic composition. Earth's ever-evolving companion, our moon, is laden with millions of craters in varying diameters. Size and force of impact indicate how large or small the indentation will be, and with such a broad range in breadth, one would expect to see varying depths. Perplexingly, all cavities have staggeringly shallow proportions. How is that? It's as if a protective metallic barrier is shielding the moon's interior. Another chilling factor is its chemical composition. Cosmonauts attempted to drill into several craters but could barely penetrate the surface. After multiple failed boring attempts, metallurgists perform extensive tests on the materials of the surface of the moon. Analysis led to a startling conclusion. The elements were not naturally occurring. Brass, titanium, and mica comprise the ethereal sphere of the moon, compounds often utilized in architectural design. And then we find structures on the moon. On November 23, 1966, a manned orbiter took photographs of the lunar surface. Shockingly, 6 enormous megalithic structures were captured on film. It was a groundbreaking discovery that made the front page of newspapers, including the LA Times and the Washington Post. The monoliths feature incredible geometric precision and unnatural right angles. Researchers estimate the towers could be taller than skyscrapers found on our Earth. Russian space engineer Alexander Abramov studied these perplexing images of these towers and noted the spire's arrangement accurately matched the Great Pyramids of Egypt, of Giza. And here's one of those pyramids. NASA claims the architectural anomalies were an optical illusion and publicly declined further investigation. However, years later, Apollo 17 obtained additional shots of these peculiar monuments. And for decades prior, poor quality images of the moon circulated. Things changed in 1994 after Jose Escamilla colorized several black and white photos acquired from a new shuttle, and with its alteration, previously indecipherable details became apparent. And through his minor edit, several colossal formations became distinctly visible. Then we have the physical property of the moon's light mass. A particularly puzzling aspect of the strange space rock, our moon, is its incredibly light volume. Although the satellite is a quarter of our Earth's 8,000-mile diameter, it only has 1.2% of the mass. 1.2% of the mass of Earth. 4 moons should theoretically be equivalent to 1 Earth. In reality, it would take over 81 moons to produce our world's total mass. 2 Russian scientists, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Sherbakov, found this fact more than unsettling. In 1970, they risked their entire careers when they published an article in the major magazine titled, "Is the Moon the Creation of Alien Intelligence?" After years of examination, both men concluded the moon was placed in orbit eons ago by sentient beings currently unknown to society. In their writings, they state, if higher life only developed on Earth because the moon is exactly what it is, and where it is, it becomes irrational to cling to the idea that it is a natural object. And then we have the mathematical components. Examining the geometrical and mathematical aspects of our moon, sun, and Earth, and bring forward incredible, startling revelations. Consequently, the numbers are so eerily precise that one begins to wonder, might it occur by grand design as opposed to mere coincidence? I mean, the numbers keep on repeating themselves. For example, the sun is 400 times larger than the moon's diameter and 400 times further to Earth. For this reason, both appear perfectly equal in size. Without this phenomenal anomaly, lunar and solar eclipses would be unattainable. Our planet rotates 366 times when orbiting the Sun, while the Sun is 366% of the Moon's polar circumference. In 10,000 days, the Moon orbits the Earth 366 times. The Moon's perimeter totals 1,092 kilometers, and there are 109.2 Earth diameters across the Sun. I mean, what is that? When the planet is further from the Sun, there are 109.2 Sun diameters between our world and the hydrogen star, the Sun. The Moon's polar circumference is 27.3% the size of Earth's polar circumference. Every 27.3 days, the Moon will orbit the Earth an average of 1,092 kilometers at the equator and 27.3 every 27.3 days. I mean, that can't be coincidence. Somber demeanor of the astronauts who visited the Moon. Landing on the Moon was one of humanity's most triumphant accomplishments. If such a feat transpired, one would imagine a celebratory homecoming. Yet when the astronauts returned to our planet Earth, their demeanors were incredibly somber. They were very serious, quiet. During an interview, the group seemed uncomfortably tense. Each man was oddly hesitant and visibly uncomfortable. Some hypothesize it's because their entire worldview had just been drastically turned upside down. During Apollo's first mission there are 2 minutes where the camera and radio feed disappeared completely. Neil Armstrong switched to the medical channel and exclaimed, "They're here, they're parked on the side of the crater, and they're watching us." This is from Down the Chupacabra Hole and on Humans Are Free, Humans Be Free. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.